If you ever feel like no matter how hard you work, how many hours you grind, or how many sacrifices you make, you still end up stuck in the same place financially, then let me tell you something that might sting a little. You're not failing because you're lazy. You're not failing because you're bad with money. You're failing because there are 7 financial cover-ups quietly engineered to keep everyday Americans broke, stressed, predictable, and controllable. These aren't accidents. These aren't coincidences. These are systems designed to drain you without you ever noticing the leak. And number 4 is the one billionaires hope you never figure out. Now, let me take you through the first one, because once you see it, you'll never look at the American financial system the same way again. Let's start with the first cover-up. And this one is so deeply built into American culture that most people don't even question it anymore. In fact, it's become so normalized that if you don't fall for it, people look at you like you're the crazy one. And that cover-up is the engineered addiction to affordable monthly payments. Now, I want you to picture something for a moment. You're standing inside a car dealership. The lights are bright. The salesperson is smiling. The smell of new leather is hypnotizing you like some financial perfume. And every car on that shiny showroom floor has one thing written across the windshield in huge, friendly letters. Only $489 a month. Only $329 a month. Only $219 a month. Notice what's missing? The actual price. The real number. The truth. You see, America's entire financial system is designed to make you think in monthly payments instead of total cost. Because the moment your brain switches from "how much does this cost" to "can I squeeze this into my monthly budget?" you've already lost. You've just stepped into the trap. And trust me, this doesn't just happen with cars. It happens with furniture, phones, laptops, mattresses, washing machines. Even your Netflix subscription is part of this psychological trick. Let me explain how this destroys people long before they realize it. When you walk into a store and see a $200 phone, your brain hesitates. Your financial instincts wake up. You think, do I really need this? But when that same phone is packaged as just $29.99 a month, the hesitation disappears. Suddenly it feels reasonable. It feels harmless. It feels like nothing. But here's the cover-up. Monthly payments aren't designed to make life easier. They're designed to make you underestimate the real cost and overcommit. Because when you add up all the affordable monthly payments Americans carry, that's when you start to see the truth. The average American now has a car payment, a second car payment, a phone payment, a furniture payment, a BNPL payment, a streaming subscription bundle, a financing plan for appliances, a credit card minimum payment, a gym membership, a software subscription or 2, a free trial. They forgot to cancel 3 years ago. Individually, they all look harmless. Together, they form a financial cage. Now, let me tell you a quick story from early in my career. Before the businesses, before the success, before the millions, I had a friend who was absolutely obsessed with having the latest gadgets. He financed everything: his car, his phone, his laptop, his sofa. He even financed a TV stand at one point. And every time he showed me something new, he flashed that same proud grin and said the same 5 words, "Mate, it's only $50 a month." But by the time he hit 32, he had over $100 in monthly payments, just in financed lifestyle items. Not investments, not assets, not anything that grew in value. Just a collection of depreciating toys that looked nice in photos but strangled his future. He wasn't broke because he earned too little. He was broke because he'd given away every future dollar he'd ever make. And that's the real cover-up. They don't need you to overspend once. They need you to overspend slowly, predictably, forever. Because a financially stressed population is a controlled population. The fix? It starts with one simple rule I drilled into myself after watching my friend drown. If you can't buy it outright, you can't afford it yet. Not next month. Not interest-free. Not zero down. Not special promo pricing. You earn it first, then you buy it. Because when you stop financing your lifestyle, you finally start financing your freedom. Let's move to the second cover-up. And this one is far bigger, far older, and far more dangerous than people realize. Because this cover-up isn't just a trick. It's an entire system built to keep Americans living in a cycle that feels normal, feels unavoidable, feels like just how life works, but secretly robs you of every bit of financial breathing room you could have had. And that cover-up is the engineered paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. Now, before we dive into this, I want you to picture a hamster wheel. It's spinning, and the hamster isn't slowing down, not because it enjoys it, but because the moment it stops running, the wheel smashes right into its face. That's exactly how millions of Americans live today. And the crazy part? Most people think it's their fault. They say, "I must be bad with money. I just need a better job. Things will improve when I get that raise. I'm trying, but nothing changes." But here's the truth they don't want you to see. The paycheck-to-paycheck trap isn't a personal failure. It's a financial system designed with zero margin for human life. Let me break it down. When companies decide your salary, they don't ask, "What income helps this person thrive?" They ask, "What's the lowest amount we can pay while still keeping them alive enough to show up next Monday?" When banks approve loans, they don't check if it's good for you. They check if you'll stay in the cycle long enough for them to profit. When landlords raise rent, they don't care if you can build savings. They care if you can stretch just far enough that you barely keep paying. And when inflation rises, everyone shrugs and says, "That's the economy," while quietly increasing the cost of everything except the one thing you actually need to escape the wheel: your income. Let me tell you a story from earlier in my career that opened my eyes to this entire scam. There was a guy I knew, brilliant with numbers, worked insane hours, good salary, always hustling. But he was constantly stressed, constantly scraping by, constantly one bad week away from total collapse. One day I asked him, "Why are you always on edge about money? You earn great money." And he said something I'll never forget. "Mark, I don't earn money. I borrow survival from my next paycheck." That line hit me so hard I still remember the exact tone in his voice, because he wasn't exaggerating. He lived paycheck to paycheck, not because he was irresponsible, but because his entire financial life was structured to collapse the moment he stopped spinning the wheel. No savings, no emergency fund, no investments, no cushion. Just a financial treadmill built by companies who profit every time you stay just comfortable enough to keep going, but never stable enough to walk away. And here's the part that sickens me. They've convinced people that this is what adulthood looks like. They normalize stress. They normalize debt. They normalize living at 100% capacity with no room for mistakes. They normalize financial anxiety as just part of life. But the truth is, it's not normal. It's engineered. People aren't failing their budgets. Their budgets were never designed to give them control in the first place. Let me tell you the real reason this cover-up exists. A financially trapped population is predictable, and predictable people spend more, borrow more, and question less. If you're exhausted, stressed, overworked, and barely surviving, you don't have the time or energy to learn skills. You don't have the bandwidth to build a side income. You don't have the clarity to invest. You don't have the confidence to negotiate. You don't have the perspective to realize, oh, the system wants me stuck. You're too busy surviving to notice you're being controlled. But here's the good news, and this is where things finally shift in your favor. The way out isn't dramatic. It's not glamorous. It's not some overnight miracle. It starts with one tiny, unexciting, deeply powerful goal. Create your first gap between income and expenses, no matter how small. $50, $30, even $15. Just carve out a crack in the cage, because the moment you build even the smallest bit of financial margin, everything changes. You start breathing better. You start thinking clearer. You start acting differently. You start breaking the cycle 1 inch at a time. People think escaping paycheck to paycheck requires a huge raise. It doesn't. It requires reclaiming control of $1, and then 2, and then 3, until you eventually build the financial muscle the system never wanted you to develop. And once you do that, you stop running in the wheel and start walking out of it. All right, let's move to the third cover-up. And this one is so widespread, so deeply baked into American culture, that most people don't even realize it's a trap. In fact, people defend it. They brag about it. They build their entire identity around it. And that cover-up is the credit score illusion. The belief that a high credit score means you're financially smart, financially stable, and financially safe. But here's the punchline they never want you to hear. A high credit score doesn't mean you're good with money. It means you're good at borrowing it. Let that sink in for a moment. Because if you look around, you'll notice something strange. People will proudly say, I'm at 780. I hit 800. My score just jumped. As if it's some kind of financial achievement. But the truth is far darker. Your credit score doesn't measure wealth. It measures compliance. It measures how reliably you play the debt game, a game designed by banks, for banks, where you are the product, and your good behavior simply means you're profitable to lend to. Let me show you how twisted this is. If you have 0 debt, pay everything in cash, own your car, own your home, and never borrow a single dollar, guess what your credit score becomes? Invisible. You become the equivalent of a ghost in the system. But if you carry debt, make payments for years, pay interest, use credit cards consistently, keep a balance, take out loans, suddenly you're a financially responsible adult. Do you see the scam? The system rewards the behavior that keeps you trapped and punishes the behavior that sets you free. Let me explain this with a story from the early days of my business. I once knew a guy, incredibly disciplined, very frugal, hated debt with a passion. He saved aggressively, invested early, paid everything up front, and lived well below his means. When he finally went to buy a house, the bank looked him in the eye and said, "Sorry, we can't approve you. You don't have enough credit history." This man had tens of thousands saved, a perfect income, an emergency fund, a spotless financial track record. But because he didn't play the debt game, the banks treated him like a risk. Meanwhile, I've seen people drowning in 5 maxed-out credit cards get approved for loans simply because they show consistency. Consistency in paying interest. That's the credit score illusion working exactly as intended. Now let's break down the psychology behind it, because this is where the trap gets sticky. People hear terms like build your credit, improve your score, raise your limit, boost your financial reputation. It all sounds responsible. It sounds mature. It sounds like you're taking control. But the truth? They're training you to think debt is normal. They're training you to think borrowing is the adult thing to do. They're training you to think revolving balances are just part of life. Because a population that avoids debt is dangerous to banks. A population that depends on debt is profitable. Here's the financial breakdown they hope you never work out. Your credit score doesn't care if you're wealthy. It only cares if you're predictable. It rises when you borrow money, keep accounts open for years, make minimum payments, pay interest reliably. It drops when you pay everything in full, stop borrowing, close accounts, become financially independent. So the people who look financially perfect on paper are often the ones paying the most to the system. And the people who look financially invisible are often the ones actually building wealth. This cover-up works because banks have convinced people that a high credit score is a status symbol. It's not. It's a leash, just a shiny one. But here's the good news, and this is the part that gives you your power back. You don't need to destroy your credit score. You just need to stop worshiping it. A smart person uses credit as a tool. A trapped person uses credit as a lifestyle. If you want to escape this illusion, here's the mindset shift. Build your assets, not your credit. Build your savings, not your debt history. Build your financial independence, not your lender reputation. Because the people with real wealth don't brag about their credit score. They brag about their freedom. And that is something no bank can score, track, or control. All right, buckle up for this one. Because financial cover-up number 4 is the one they work the hardest to hide. Not because it's complicated, not because it's dangerous to talk about, but because if the average American understood this one truth, billions of dollars would evaporate from the banking system overnight. And that cover-up is this. Saving money in a regular bank account makes you financially safe. It sounds responsible. It sounds mature. It sounds exactly like the advice your parents, your teachers, and every trusted institution drilled into your head growing up. Put your money in a savings account. Save for a rainy day. Keep your money safe in the bank. Your savings will protect you. But here's the truth they hope you never do the math on. Banks don't protect your money. Banks drain it, slowly, quietly, invisibly. Let me explain. When you put $10,000 in a savings account, they don't keep $10,000 in a vault with your name on it. They loan your money out. They invest your money. They multiply your money for themselves. And what do they give you in return? 0.01% interest. 0.05% if you're lucky. A shiny little number designed to make you feel financially responsible, while your money is losing speed against the cost of living every single second. Let me show you the real numbers behind this cover-up, the numbers people never check. Inflation in the U.S. over the last 10 years? Anywhere from 3% to 9% per year. Average savings account interest? 0.01% to 0.5%. Do you see what's happening? Your money is sprinting backwards, while you're standing still thinking you're making progress. Let me put it in plain English. Every year your money stays in a basic savings account, you get poorer, even if the balance goes up. That's the lie. That's the trap. That's the cover-up. Banks market savings accounts as safe, when in reality they're only safe for the bank. Because here's the sneaky part. They want you to save. They want you to hoard cash. They want you to let your money sit. Because still money is profitable money for them. You know what they don't want? You investing, you compounding, you building assets, you growing your net worth without their involvement. Because the moment your money starts working for you, it stops working for them. Now let me tell you a story, a painful one, that taught me this the hard way. Years ago, before I truly understood wealth building, I kept a large sum of money sitting in a high-interest savings account. It sounded good, it felt safe, it was what everyone told me to do. Then, one day, a banker told me, and I'll never forget this, Mark, it's smart to keep a large cushion. You never know when you'll need it. But do you know what happened during that year? Inflation ate far more than the interest I earned. My safe money lost more value sitting still than it would have lost if I'd simply invested it in something basic, boring, long-term, like an index fund. That's when it hit me. Saving money doesn't make you safe. Growing money does. And once I understood that, every financial decision I ever made changed forever. Now, let's break down the psychology behind this cover-up, because this is where the real manipulation happens. Banks use fear. Fear of losing money, fear of risk, fear of investing, fear of volatility, fear of making a mistake. They know that a scared consumer is a profitable consumer, because scared people don't grow, they store, they hoard, they cling to cash, thinking it's security, not realizing cash is the biggest thing losing value every single year. And while you sit there thinking you're being careful, the system is quietly siphoning away your future. Most Americans hit their 30s and 40s with a savings account that's shrinking in real value, no investments, no assets, no compounding, no financial momentum, and a belief that they've been doing the right thing the whole time, when in reality they've been following a script designed to make banks rich, not them. Now, let me make something clear. Yes, you need a savings buffer. Yes, you need an emergency fund. Yes, you need cash for short-term surprises. But after that, cash is trash. Cash stagnates. Cash decays. Real wealth comes from owning things that grow faster than inflation. Things like index funds, ETFs, real estate, cash-flowing assets, a second income, skills that pay you more over time, businesses, even small, consistent investments that compound quietly in the background. That's what the wealthy do. They don't save to feel safe. They invest to be safe. They don't collect cash like trophies. They deploy cash like soldiers. And here's the irony. The people who feel the safest are often the least protected. And the people who take smart, steady, controlled risks become the safest of all. So if you want to escape this cover-up, the rule is simple. Save to survive. Invest to thrive. One builds stability, the other builds freedom. And if you want both, you can't stay trapped in the savings scam they train you to believe from childhood. Financial cover-up No. 5 is the one almost everyone falls for in their 20s and 30s, not because they're irresponsible, but because the entire system is designed to make you believe this one poisonous idea. To be seen as successful, you need to look successful. Now, on the surface, this sounds harmless. It sounds like confidence. It sounds like ambition. It sounds like the natural way to signal that you're moving up in life. But here's the part nobody tells you. This is the cover-up that keeps Americans broke, stressed, insecure, and financially trapped for decades, because it turns your money into a performance instead of a tool. Let me walk you through the psychology behind it, because once you see how deep this trap goes, you'll never look at status spending the same way again. The illusion that sucks you. In the moment you hit your late 20s or early 30s, you feel this invisible pressure from friends, coworkers, family, society, social media, all telling you the same story. You're not a kid anymore. You should have nicer things. You should look established by now. You should be further along. And suddenly, without even noticing, you start making decisions not based on what's financially smart, but based on what looks socially acceptable. You upgrade your car, not because you needed to, but because everyone else seemed to be driving something newer. You move into a nicer apartment, not because you could afford it, but because you felt embarrassed inviting people over. You buy premium clothes, premium gadgets, premium nights out, not because they brought real joy, but because they kept you from feeling behind. And that's exactly how the system traps you. It convinces you to rent the identity of a successful person instead of becoming one. The story most people never hear. When I first started making money, I almost fell for this trap myself. My friends were upgrading their cars, colleagues were buying larger homes, people around me looked like they were skyrocketing in life. And here I was, still driving something modest, still keeping my expenses low, still building behind the scenes. One day, a man I deeply respected, wealthy, wise, experienced, pulled me aside and said, "Mark, the moment you start buying things to look successful, you've already lost." That line hit me like a bolt of lightning, because I suddenly realized something. People who are successful don't need to prove it. People who aren't successful try to prove it the most. And once I saw it everywhere. Fancy cars with giant loans behind them. Luxury apartments one missed paycheck away from disaster. Designer outfits purchased on credit. People living a movie version of their life while their real financial stability collapsed quietly in the background. The worst part? Most of them had no idea. They thought they were rising, but their debt was rising faster, their savings were shrinking, their investments didn't exist, and their future was quietly being sold, one monthly payment at a time. Why this cover-up works so well? Because it's emotional. It taps into the need for respect, validation, belonging, approval, confidence, identity, dignity, pride. And when an industry understands your emotions, it can control your spending. Do you think luxury brands sell products? No, they sell feelings. The feeling of being somebody, the feeling of being admired, the feeling of being worthy. And when you buy something to feel worthy, you become addicted to the feeling. That's how the trap works. The financial damage you don't see until it's too late. People in their 30s get crushed by this lie because it creates a lifestyle built entirely on fragile foundations. Monthly payments that swallow every raise you get. An image you must constantly maintain, no emergency fund, no investments, no second income, no runway for risk, no real financial freedom. You trade long-term wealth for short-term validation. It's like planting a money tree and cutting it down every month to impress people walking by. And speaking of people, let me tell you the part that hurts the most. The people you're trying to impress? They don't remember what you wore last week. They don't remember what car you drove. They don't remember your phone, your watch, your clothes, or your lifestyle. They remember how you made them feel. That's it. And the people who do judge you based on those things, they're not people worth impressing. The fix, the rule that built my wealth. Here's the rule that saved me decades of financial pain. Look successful after you become successful, not before. Your 20s and 30s are not for performance, they're for construction. You should be building skills, investments, discipline, assets, a second income, a financial base, a future your family can rely on. Not chasing the applause of people who play a louder game than their bank account can support. And here's the funny part. Once you actually become wealthy, you won't even want most of the things you once thought you needed. Because real wealth isn't loud. Real wealth is calm. Real wealth is control. Real wealth is choice. You can buy the car, the house, the holidays. But when you do it from strength, not insecurity, the experience is completely different. Financial cover-up, verse 6, is the quiet killer of ambition, not because it drains your wallet directly, but because it destroys the engine that creates every bit of wealth you'll ever build. And that cover-up is the belief that my financial situation is because of everyone else, not me. Now, before we go any further, let me make something absolutely clear. Life is unfair. Some people start ahead, some start miles behind, some get lucky breaks, some get setbacks that punch them straight in the gut. But here's the part almost everyone misses. Unfairness isn't what keeps people stuck. Blame is. Let me break this down in the clearest way possible, because if you don't escape this trap, every strategy, every budget, every opportunity you ever touch will slip straight through your fingers. The blame loop that feels harmless. Until it owns you, most people don't even realize they're stuck in this pattern because it starts with tiny moments. My boss is holding me back. The economy is terrible. My parents didn't teach me any of this. Rich people have all the advantages. I can't save. Everything is too expensive. I'm unlucky. I never get opportunities. And at first these thoughts feel innocent, comforting even. Blame gives you a story where you're the victim, so you don't have to change anything. It removes guilt, but it also removes control. And that's exactly why this cover-up keeps people broke for entire decades. The hardest lesson I ever learned while being bullied at work. When I was a young apprentice, my manager made my life a living nightmare. He mocked me. He threatened me. He made going to work feel like stepping into a storm every single day. And trust me, every fiber of my being wanted to blame him. And I could have. But here's the truth I realized far earlier than most people my age. If I blamed him, I'd learn nothing. If I learned from him, I'd gain everything. So instead of quitting with resentment, I squeezed every skill out of that job like it was the last drop of water in a desert. I learned craftsmanship. I learned tools. I learned precision. I learned problem solving. I learned resilience. And those skills, the ones I could have easily walked away from, eventually helped me create my global model brand and build the wealth I'm known for today. If I had chosen blame over responsibility, I would have left that job with absolutely nothing. Why this cover-up is so dangerous in your 30s. Your 30s are the decade where you need momentum, where your decisions compound, where your habits start shaping your future permanently. But blame kills momentum instantly because if it's someone else's fault, you don't take action. If you don't take action, nothing improves. If nothing improves, you feel stuck. If you feel stuck, you blame more. And the loop tightens, year after year, until you hit 35 and wonder why nothing has changed. Let me give you the blunt version most people avoid. You can't control everything, but you always control your response, and your response determines your results. Blame removes your response. Responsibility gives it back. The financial destruction blame causes, quiet but brutal. Blame creates a belief system that sounds smart but destroys your potential. I can't save. I don't earn enough. So you never budget. I can't invest. The market is risky. So you never start. I can't learn new skills. No time. So you never grow. I can't start a side hustle. Economy is bad. So you stay dependent. I can't succeed. The system is unfair. So you never even try. Blame gives you permission to stay the same. And staying the same is the most expensive decision you'll ever make. The two tools you carry in life, and only one leads to wealth. In life, you only ever reach for two tools, the magnifying glass and the mirror. Most people choose the magnifying glass. They zoom in on everyone else's flaws, failures, and advantages. The government, the boss, the system, the upbringing, the economy. And they spend years staring outward, never once looking inward. But people who build wealth, real wealth, choose the mirror. They ask themselves questions like, what part of this situation can I control? What lesson can I extract from this? What action can I take next? How do I make sure this never happens again? The mirror doesn't blame. The mirror empowers. The mirror doesn't make excuses. The mirror makes progress. The fix, the responsibility shift. There's one habit that separates wealthy minds from broke ones. When something goes wrong, they immediately ask, what can I do about it? Not because they caused the problem, but because they want the power to solve it. Here's the truth. Responsibility isn't about guilt. It's about control. It's about freedom. It's about taking your power back, piece by piece, decision by decision. Your 30s don't require perfection. They require ownership. Because the moment you stop blaming, you stop waiting. And the moment you stop waiting, you start building. This is the last financial cover-up, and it's the one that destroys more Americans in their 30s than any recession, any tax bill, or any bad economy ever has. Why? Because this cover-up doesn't just affect your bank account, it attacks your self-worth, it twists your expectations, it fills your mind with pressure, and it makes you spend money trying to fix an emotional problem that money can't fix. And the lie is this: by your 30s, you should have your entire life figured out. Now, people rarely say it out loud. They hint at it. They imply it. They smile politely when you say you're still figuring things out. They compare your age to your accomplishments. They look at you like you've missed the train, and you start believing it. You start thinking, I should own a house by now. I should have a stable job. I should have savings. I should be earning more. I should be married, secure, established. I should be further ahead than this. Here's the problem. The moment you believe you're behind, you start making financial decisions out of panic, not strategy. And panic is the most expensive emotion in the world. The timeline trap. How this lie wrecks your 30s. This lie pushes millions of people into decisions they're not emotionally or financially ready for. Taking on a mortgage because everyone my age owns a home. Buying a car that looks like a 30-year-old's car. Upgrading apartments to seem established. Agreeing to expensive weddings just to keep the script alive. Rushing into degrees, careers, or businesses purely from fear. Spending money they don't have to look like someone they're not. And every one of these decisions comes with decades of consequences. People don't become broke because their 30s are hard. They become broke because the pressure convinces them to start living a life they haven't built a foundation for yet. The psychological punch this lie delivers. Let me tell you the real problem. This lie makes you compare your insides to other people's outsides. You don't see their debt. You don't see their stress. You don't see their quiet arguments about bills. You don't see their credit card balances. You don't see the image maintenance they're drowning in. You see a highlight reel, and then you punish yourself for not matching it. This creates a dangerous cocktail of shame, panic, fear, impulse spending, constant comparison, decision fatigue, identity confusion, and that emotional chaos pushes you into the biggest financial mistakes of your life. What people don't realize until their late 30s. Let me tell you something I wish someone had said to me when I felt behind. Your 30s are not the decade to settle down. They're the decade to finally build up. Most people don't have life sorted by 30. Most look stable, but they're barely holding it together. Many are secretly drowning in debt. Many are terrified they made the wrong decisions. Many feel lost, just like you. But here's the difference. People who fall for the timeline lie. Panic spend their way into financial disaster. People who ignore the timeline lie build quietly, patiently, steadily, and they win later. A truth. Almost nobody tells you. Your 30s aren't the finish line. They're the launch pad. This is the decade where your skills sharpen, your money habits stabilize, your career direction becomes clearer, your confidence grows, your opportunities multiply, your discipline compounds, your decisions finally start paying you back. You don't need life figured out. You need life moving forward. There's a difference. The financial damage of believing you're behind. This lie triggers 3 deadly financial outcomes. 1. Pressure. Purchases. You buy things to prove you're doing well. That car you can't afford, that apartment upgrade, that expensive engagement ring or wedding, that holiday that puts you into credit card debt. These aren't purchases, they are reactions. Reactions to internal pressure you were never meant to carry. 2. Panic commitments. You rush into long-term obligations, 30-year mortgages, 5-year car loans, huge lifestyle upgrades, career paths you don't even want, not because you're ready, but because you're scared of not looking ready. 3. Lost time. You skip the foundation building years because you're too busy trying to look like you already have the foundation. The biggest regret I hear from people in their late 30s and early 40s? I wasted years trying to look like an adult instead of preparing to become one. The fix: redefine what behind actually means. Let me simplify this. You're not behind because you're 30-something and still figuring things out. You're behind if you refuse to learn, you refuse to grow, you refuse to start, you refuse to take responsibility, you refuse to delay gratification, you refuse to build skills, you refuse to invest early, you refuse to stretch your comfort zone. Age doesn't put you behind, inaction does. If you're learning, building, improving, even slowly, you're ahead of 90% of people who are just maintaining an image. Direction beats timing. Direction beats age. Direction beats pressure. The real win of ignoring this timeline, cover-up. The moment you stop judging your life by the age society expects you to hit milestones, you start building a life that actually fits you. You gain clarity. You gain control, you gain confidence, you gain space to grow, you gain patience, you gain financial stability, and most importantly, you gain the ability to make decisions based on logic, not panic. That's when your 30s transform from a crisis into your greatest opportunity. Now that we've exposed all 7 financial cover-ups keeping Americans broke, let me leave you with something I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Long before I learned these lessons the hard way, people don't wake up one morning and suddenly find themselves trapped, stressed, and drowning financially. It doesn't happen in some dramatic Hollywood moment. It happens slowly, quietly, silently. It happens in the second you believe the lie that lifestyle is more important than stability. In the moment you accept debt as normal. In the moment you hand over your power to a system that's designed to keep you obedient, not wealthy. In the moment you compare your life to someone who's secretly falling apart behind the scenes. In the moment you convince yourself that you still have plenty of time to fix things later. But the truth is, your future isn't shaped by big, life-changing decisions. Your future is shaped by the tiny decisions you repeat every single day. The decisions most people never notice until it's too late. You've now seen the cover-ups. You've seen how they keep people broke. You've seen the traps hiding in plain sight, and you've seen how easy it is to fall into them, simply because everyone else already has. But here's the difference between you and the average person. You're aware now. And awareness is the crack in the cage. Once you see the system, you cannot unsee it. which means from this moment forward, every financial choice you make, every habit you build, every dollar you spend, every investment you commit to, can move you out of the cover-ups and into the financial freedom most people only dream about. Because here's the truth, nobody teaches in school. Wealth isn't built from intelligence, it's built from intention. Live below your income, even when everyone around you is stretching theirs to the breaking point. Treat debt like poison, not a lifestyle accessory. Build skills that make you valuable, not replaceable. Invest early, consistently, automatically. Even if it feels small, seek clarity, not chaos. Take responsibility, not revenge. Choose growth, not comfort. And above all, stop living your life on someone else's timeline. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to jump to millionaire status overnight. You don't even need to get everything right. You just need to make better decisions than the average person, consistently. Because consistency, not luck, is what separates the broke from the free. Now, if you want the next step, the real next step, the one that shows you exactly what to do every time you get paid, how to structure your money so it grows on autopilot, and how to build wealth without sacrificing your entire life. I've left the perfect guide right up there, but don't click it just yet. Make sure you subscribe if you want to escape the financial traps that keep most Americans broke and build a life your future self will look back on and say, "That was the moment everything changed." All right, I'll see you over there.